Stark. I build neat stuff, I got a great girl, and occasionally save the world.
Iron Man 3 was way back in Phase 2, and there were 14 movies between that and Endgame. Couldn't we have gotten more Tony Stark movies? He and Cap were the faces of the MCU until Endgame, so a solo movie right before Infinity War would have made sense. That could have also explained how Pepper got her suit and knew how to use it, unless she got it during the blip. So many possibilities. We also missed out on a proper backstory for the nano suit. Instead of it just showing up out of nowhere, a movie could have explored how he developed it. Imagine a villain using nanotech against him before he even had the suit. Would have been an epic setup. That said, RDJ was probably done by then, and Marvel needed to focus on other characters. Plus, Infinity War and Endgame were basically Iron Man and Friends movies anyway. But what about a real comeback? Maybe by passing the mantle to someone new. We already know RDJ is returning as Doctor Doom, so him coming back as Iron Man is unlikely. But he did hint at one great actor who could take over the role pretty well. Robert Downey Jr. was asked about the possibility of returning for Iron Man 4, and instead of giving a straight answer, he dodged the question with a playful nod to Iron Man's original casting rumors.
Does he want to do that?
No, we want to see you in that.
Okay.
Thank you.
Tom, don't take it.
Tom Cruise has been linked to the role of Tony Stark since Iron Man first came out in 2008. He was reportedly one of the actors Marvel considered before ultimately casting Robert Downey Jr. Over the years, rumors have swirled that Kevin Feige wanted Cruise to join the MCU as a Tony Stark variant. There were even reports that he was in talks to appear in Doctor Strange and the Multiverse of Madness, but scheduling conflicts got in the way. Cruise has mostly dodged questions about possibly joining the MCU, but when asked how close he actually came to playing Stark, he had this to say: "Not close, not close. I love Robert Downey and I can't imagine anyone else playing this role, and I think it's perfect for him." However, he then added, "I look at a movie and think, I don't rule anything out. It's what's the story? What's the character? Does it interest me? Do I feel this is what an audience would like to see me in? What can I learn? What can I contribute? That's really how I look at things." With Robert Downey Jr. set to return to the MCU as Doctor Doom, that leaves the door open for someone else to take on the role of Tony Stark. According to this MTTSH X post, Marvel Studios is still interested in bringing Tom Cruise in as an alternate universe version of Stark for the upcoming Avengers movies. You can't really blame Feige and the Marvel team for wanting one of the biggest stars in Hollywood to bring his A-list power to the MCU, and honestly, I'd be pretty curious to see Cruise's take on Iron Man. Another reason Iron Man 4 should happen is that it has the perfect chance to fix a big villain issue in the MCU. The MCU has struggled with villains in one part of its franchise, but Iron Man 4 could help turn that around. Ever since Iron Man kicked things off in 2008, we've seen a ton of live-action villains from Marvel Comics. Iron Man's journey started strong with Obadiah Stane and the Ten Rings making a big impact. But after that, the quality of his villains started to drop. Iron Man 3 even muddled the whole Ten Rings storyline until Shang-Chi later cleaned it up in Phase 4. Instead of top-tier foes, Iron Man got Whiplash, Aldrich Killian, and the fake-out that was Trevor Slattery. Even Justin Hammer, who fans love, was mostly reduced to comic relief in Iron Man 2. Most of Tony Stark's villains just weren't as memorable or intimidating as the ones his fellow Avengers faced. Steve Rogers went up against iconic enemies like Red Skull, the Winter Soldier, and Hydra. Thor had major showdowns with Loki, the fan-favorite Hela, and one of the few bright spots of Love and Thunder, Gore. Even the Guardians of the Galaxy, who aren't exactly stacked with superpowers, took on godlike foes. The Iron Man trilogy took a lot of creative liberties with its villains. Instead of properly adapting the Mandarin, one of Iron Man's most famous enemies, the trilogy reworked him completely. Aldrich Killian, who was barely a blip in the comics, got a major spotlight, and Whiplash was turned into something completely different from his more well-known comic counterpart. And then there's the whole confusion around Anton and Ivan Vanko. In Iron Man 2, Anton Vanko was Ivan's father, but in the comics, Anton himself was one version of Whiplash. The MCU also hinted that Anton was actually Crimson Dynamo, one of Iron Man's biggest enemies. But since he's dead in the movies, that whole angle was left untouched. Crimson Dynamo did appear in the Iron Man 2 video game, which isn't canon, but does show how he could fit into the story. If Iron Man 4 happens, especially if it explores an alternate universe like the upcoming Fantastic Four movie, it could finally bring Crimson Dynamo into the fold. Another option is Zeke Stane. Since his father Obadiah Stane was one of Iron Man's more memorable villains, Zeke could easily step in to continue his legacy. Tony Stark's tech has constantly been stolen and used for the wrong reasons, starting with Obadiah, and Zeke could be the next to misuse it. If Marvel ever decides to have someone like Morgan Stark take up the Iron Man mantle, Zeke could even be her main antagonist. Then there's Arno Stark, Tony's long-lost brother, whose backstory is pretty wild but could totally work in the MCU. In the comics, Arno is actually the biological son of Maria and Howard Stark, but they kept him hidden and adopted Tony instead. When Tony finally learns the truth, he and Arno start off as allies since they're both tech geniuses. But things take a turn when Arno goes rogue, steals Tony's tech, and becomes Iron Man himself. That kind of twist could flip Iron Man 4 on its head. And imagine if they cast Tom Cruise as Arno, Tony's long-lost brother? That would be insane. That said, a direct sequel seems less likely than a spiritual successor. Armor Wars is already shaping up to be that, focusing on Tony Stark's legacy and bringing back familiar faces from the Iron Man movies. Then there's Ironheart, which will naturally draw comparisons between Riri Williams and Tony. Riri Williams made her big screen debut in Black Panther: Wakanda Forever, and now she's set to lead her own Ironheart series on Disney+. To recap, Riri helped Wakanda in their battle against Talokan, using her genius and Wakandan resources to build a full Stark tech suit, one made entirely of vibranium. But after the war, she had to return the suit to keep it out of US government hands, forcing her to keep some distance from Wakanda for her own safety. Now, in Ironheart, Riri is back in Chicago. She's being expelled from MIT after missing too many classes and using up too many university resources. To keep working on her tech, she teams up with Parker Robbins, aka The Hood, a criminal with a magic-powered cloak. At first, Riri joins his gang to fund her projects, but things take a turn when she and the Hood become enemies. This sets up a unique battle between science and magic, something Tony Stark never really faced one-on-one. Well, that's it for today. Do you think Iron Man 4 should happen, or would you rather see the mantle passed to a new hero? Let me know in the comments below. And don't forget to subscribe, because we'll be covering more updates on this soon and other exciting upcoming movies and series. We'll see you next time.